Good afternoon to you. 4:07 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, Congressman Pat Fallon joins us this hour. He's with the House Oversight Committee. We're going to talk about Speaker Kevin McCarthy announcing the beginning of the impeachment inquiry into Joseph Robinette Biden. That's ahead. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. As always, we have so much news to get to. Just ridiculous. They caught that guy in Pennsylvania, by the way. The manhunt is over. The person hunt has concluded in 2023 for the illegal immigrant who has killed multiple people, including stabbing his girlfriend to death in front of her children. They finally caught this guy, which is great news. He was an escaped murderer until today, Danilo Cavalcante, and he was captured this morning after NBC reports authorities tracked him down using thermal heat technology from an aircraft. They had some trouble overnight. Apparently, thunderstorms and some lightning were getting in the way of some of the sensors, but they created a perimeter to basically enclose this guy, and then they caught him this morning, and that's great. There was a Border Patrol dog involved, which is nice because he's an illegal immigrant, and at the very least, he deserves a Border Patrol dog gnawing him, and that, of course, did happen. The dog got a hold of him and wounded him. Like any good criminal, he was wearing a Philadelphia Eagles hoodie when they caught him. Sorry, Eagles fans. Yeah, no, they caught him wearing an Eagles hoodie. There must have been other Eagles fans among the cops because they cut it off of him. You don't get to wear this. They trimmed it right off of him. And then all of the cops stood there and they did a photo op with the guy. They pulled him in and they had a big group of law enforcement. I'm talking 50 deep at least. All these guys just standing there like a big class photo with the illegal immigrant, Danilo Cavalcante. It's the only awesome thing about him is his name. I like saying it, Cavalcante. And here's the audio as the media covers the officers taking a picture with the guy they caught today.
So it makes things a lot more dangerous. A lot of people can sleep easy knowing he is off the streets. So you can see, look at the amount of people it actually took. Looks like we're going to have a bit of a photo op at this point, and you can see those are all state police, I believe, for the most part, dressed like military personnel, as a matter of fact, all in camouflage, and I can see a canine cop there. But they're all going to pose with him for a little shot here, I guess, to celebrate the victory of capturing him. And then he will be, I guess, returned to prison. But that is a little live look outside. That has all come to an end.
Do you not love the sing-song presentation from that guy? Isn't that the best? Looks like a bunch of cops are getting together, and they are holding him there, and they're taking a photo. And they will be taking him back to what appears to be jail. Yes, I think so. Where do they teach that? That's pretty funny. Anyway, that was the shot. There was a helicopter shot looking down on this big crowd of people. And, of course, I saw some people giving these guys grief. Why are they taking a photo? Is that normal? Y'all get together and take a photo? He stabbed his girlfriend to death in front of her children. The guys who actually went out there looking for an armed and dangerous prisoner caught him. They're entitled to some photos, some class photos. I think it's a great idea. Let's just point out that we're on the side of the good guys who catch the bad guys. That's a good thing. I don't even know why people were upset about that. There was a funny moment, though, during the press conference as law enforcement was laying out all the details. You had a cop, senior official of some kind, laying out everything that had taken place, how they caught this guy, how they tracked him down, what it took. It was just under 2 weeks that he was on the run. Somehow he didn't escape Pennsylvania. I always thought that was the weirdest feature of all of this. He didn't escape, like he was captured on an island or something. Like, you can get out of Pennsylvania. It's possible. This guy couldn't. He couldn't figure out how to do it. It was like Jurassic Park. They were contained. But funny moment during the press conference today is as cops are explaining all this, some random guy. Now, I don't think this is a journalist. I think this is a comedian. This is shtick, quite obviously, but a hilarious interjection as a guy asks this question of the police.
Sir, is there any concern that he would team up with another small man to step inside of a trench coat, Little Rascal style?
No.
Did you hear that? Did you? Sir, Was there any concern that he would team up with another small man to step inside of a trench coat, Little Rascal style? Yeah, that's a great question. Did the cops worry that the illegal immigrant murderer would pull off a cartoon trench coat escape? Hey, you seen any escaped prisoners around here? No prisoners around here. Just me walking around in a trench coat. All right, on your way. It's hilarious. I love that the cop took him seriously, too. He was like, no. There wasn't. Actually, no, it's a good question. No, there was no concern that he would stack up with another small man inside of a trench coat. So that happened in Pennsylvania today. Let's fly across the country now to the state of Utah. We've got a news headline for you today. Did you know that Utah Senator Mitt Romney is done? Romney announced today that he is retiring from the United States Senate. He is done. Although what that really means is he's not running for re-election. He's staying in the job for now. Here is Romney today with a lecture for America.
I've spent my last 25 years in public service of one kind or another. At the end of another term, I'd be in my mid-80s. Frankly, it's time for a new generation of leaders.
Yeah, he's marched in all of the Black Lives Matter protests you could possibly march in. It's time for someone else to join a Black Lives Matter protest and riot.
They're the ones that need to make the decisions that will shape the world they will be living in. Now, we face critical challenges. Mounting national debt, climate change, and the ambitious authoritarians.
Oh my goodness. This guy is just, even on his departure, is insufferable. How did, man, Mitt Romney. That guy was the nominee to become president of the United States by the Republican Party. The big issue we face is climate change. And I'm looking forward to a new generation of leaders stepping up to fight climate change, because if the government needs anything, it's more power, says Mitt Romney.
World they will be living in. Now, we face critical challenges. Mounting national debt, climate change, and the ambitious authoritarians of Russia and China. Neither President Biden nor former President Trump are leading their party to confront those issues.
This guy, he's just unbelievable.
On deficits and debt, both men refuse to address entitlements, even though they know that this represents 2/3 of federal spending. Donald Trump calls global warming a hoax, and President Biden offers feel-good solutions that make no difference to the global climate.
So what he's saying is that Biden is not going hard enough. Biden's weak on this issue of climate change. I'm not going to be satisfied until everyone's locked in their homes. All you carbon emitters. How many SUVs does the Romney family have? Why don't we start with you? How many private planes does your family own? Why don't we start with you? What are you talking about? Yeah, Biden not going hard enough on the average American when it comes to, quote, climate change. Will Mitt Romney's mansions experience blackouts or brownouts? Is that going to happen? Does he ever have to, is he ever wanting for anything? Meanwhile, he's wants to impose scarcity on the rest of us through this deranged, we can control the weather agenda. He says here, I'm not running for re-election, but I'm staying in the fight.
While I'm not running for re-election, I'm not retiring from the fight. I'll be your United States Senator until January of 2025. Okay. I will keep working on these.
No, you can go. You don't have to stay. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. Honestly, we've got it covered here. If you want to go, just head on out, man. You've done enough, honestly. I heard there's a BLM riot that you can be in somewhere. It's not in Utah. It's somewhere else, but just go. Just please go. Please go. He's like, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to be here till 2025.
I will keep working on these and other issues, and I'll advance our state's numerous priorities. I look forward to working with you and with folks across our state and nation in that endeavor.
Climate change. Let's see here. Mitt Romney. Let's take Greg and Lorton here, line 4. Greg, very sorrowful on this day as Mitt Romney announces he's retiring from the Senate.
Oh, I'm just so tearful and crying. It's just unbelievable. What I wanted to say to you, Vince, and thank you for taking my call, by the way.
Sure.
I love your show.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I listen every day. The fact that the Republicans offered him up as a presidential candidate, and then, against Obama. And then, of course, before that, we had John McCain running against Obama. And no matter how much I respect McCain, he just, at the end there, he nobody wanted to vote for that guy. He was just weird. He was like angry old man, And then the next time we offer Mitt Romney, no wonder Obama won twice.
Well, the Romney thing, the thing I always reflect on with Romney, it's like out of all 300 some odd million people in the entire country, you chose the one guy who came up with Obamacare to run against the guy who actually implemented it at a national level. Mitt Romney came up with Obamacare at the state level. Obama takes that as a formula, imposes it on the nation, and then Republicans put Romney against Obama. That was a good idea?
Yeah. See how stupid they are? There's just no – I don't know. Are there no strategists? I mean, come on. Where are you? What are you doing? And they continue to do it today. They don't fight the battles. They never take a battle head on. They always try to snake around it and then come back and backbite it. It's just terrible. We need – I'll tell you one thing Romney said that was right. We definitely need new leadership, but most especially in the Republican Party, people who are willing to fight for the country, Constitution, and our liberties, man. And I'm not seeing it very much. There's a few.
Yeah.
But most Republicans out there who are fighting for it are guys like you and guys like, Levin and other. I mean, you're fighting harder than the freaking congressmen are.
Well, Greg, I appreciate that. And here's I'll relay a story. I saw Chris Rufo last night because he has a book out, and there was an event that I went to where he was at, and he mentioned that Republican lawmakers in particular are usually lagging indicators of where the party is because they're just kind of holding their fingers up, waiting to see where the base is and what's going on. And the reality here is I think there's some notes for optimism. I do think that broadly the American people are sick of this crap and are calling it out, and there are fewer and fewer people who are willing to sit there in silence as they get their face beaten in these days. I mean, look at what's happening with, like, the gun stuff. Like, for instance, the manhunt I was just talking about at the beginning of the hour. There were Pennsylvanians who strapped guns to the side of their open-air Jeeps and were driving around looking for this guy to try and collect the reward for his capture. You had, in New Mexico, you have people walking the streets of Albuquerque with their open carry guns saying, yeah, we're not going to follow this. And to the point that you even have Democrat officials like the Attorney General in New Mexico saying, I'm not enforcing this. This is unconstitutional. And the only reason these elected officials will even step out and say something like that is because the people are placing the pressure on them to do it in the first place. So I agree with you. I'm tired of the spinelessness, but I think that there is some room for optimism because I think broadly the base is forcing these guys to either pay up or shut up.
Yeah, well, thank God for that. Because look how long it took, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just unbelievable. And I know you bust your ass on it every day, but trying to get the message out. It's just, I still have great friends of mine who are they're Biden voters. And I'm like, what? What's wrong with you?
Yes.
They just can't see. Well, they're not listening to the right outlets. I mean, they're getting lied to every day. Sure. So what can you do?
Well, what's wrong with you is the first step rather than just sitting there and painfully nodding. Thank you, Greg. I really appreciate it very much. Yep, Romney not running for re-election, he says. How about that? Hoke's in Round Hill, line 5. Hoke, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
So, look, to honor Mitt Romney's decision to not do something that he had no chance of doing in the first place, I would like to go ahead and announce today on your show that I will not be buying a Lamborghini tomorrow.
Oh, you were this close. What shocking news, Hoke. I have no idea what your means are. I would ask you for a ride if you got that Lamborghini. But so as of today, you are not getting that Lamborghini. Hoke, that's a brave decision, but I'm really grateful that you gave us the exclusive.
And if he could just take Murkowski with him.
Sure, yeah. We'll contact Romney, see if he can get anybody else to jump in that van and drive out. Thank you, Hoke. Smart point. Yeah, so, Romney's done. Which is probably good for the country. I don't know. Why am I saying probably? It's good for the country. What weird fence sitting on a bunch of stupid issues, too. And then saying, the primary obligation for the future of the United States Senate is that we take power away from the people and give it to the government to fight the weather. Like, really? That's your number one priority? You couldn't think... You didn't spend any more time on that list? And world peace. I want world peace. Okay. He's like a pageant winner. It's like, it's time to go, Mitt Romney. Hey, coming up, Congressman Pat Fallon joins us from the House Oversight Committee. We're going to talk to him about Kevin McCarthy launching an impeachment inquiry, and what it means, what kind of powers Congress is actually going to be able to use now to go after Joe Biden. And we have to get into the details of the orders that the White House has now dispatched to the media today on how to handle this issue. It's all ahead on the Vince Coglianese Show. Good afternoon to you. 436 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Help us do that today. 888-630-9625. 888-630-WMAL is how we take your calls. Yesterday, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy making a big announcement about what comes next for President Joe Biden.
I am directing our House committee to open a formal impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. This logical next step will give our committees the full power to gather all the facts and answers for the American public. It's exactly what we want to know, the answers. I believe the president would want to answer these questions and allegations as well.
The powers needed to get to the bottom of this. Let's get into what those powers are with Congressman Pat Fallon. He represents Texas's 4th Congressional District. He's a member of the House Oversight Committee, which, of course, is going to take a very important role in this impeachment inquiry. Congressman, good to have you with us.
Hey, Vince, how are you?
I'm doing well, sir. Tell me, and I asked Marjorie Taylor Greene this yesterday. I'll ask you as well. What changes now? What powers does Congress have access to now that Kevin McCarthy has made this announcement?
Well, it helps us focus, and we're going to get additional resources to do this investigation. And I do think this is warranted, considering the evidence that we have already uncovered, Vince. I mean, if you and I were talking at this time last year, I would have said to you with confidence that we could prove $1 million of foreign monies that went to the Biden family. Now I can say that's $30 million because we've had the power of subpoena over the last 8 months. And to put it, again, in historic context, when Watergate occurred, the break-in occurred in June of 1972, and President Nixon didn't resign until August of 74. So honestly, you could argue that this investigation is really just beginning.
Absolutely. Now, the impeachment process, just to dwell on the powers for a moment, it supposedly puts Congress at what I've heard a bunch of lawmakers say is at the apex of its investigative power. But isn't that entirely contingent on whether the courts play ball? Because if the Biden administration says, hey, we're not sending you what you want, then it becomes up to the courts, and the courts have to decide, does Congress actually have some sort of extra power here, correct?
Yeah, I mean, and I would hope that they do, because that's kind of what I think the precedent has been. And this is, and again, also, Vince, this just brings me no joy. And I would never have played ball with this, if you will, and been a supporter. I'm just going where the evidence leads us. I do not want to go on any kind of like revenge tour or just do this out of spite or for political reasons. And quite frankly, there's a very good argument to be made. I personally want Joe Biden to be the Democratic nominee because I think he's going to lose in the November election next year.
Yes.
He's the weakest candidate they can field. Well, Kamala Harris would be weaker, but he's one of the weakest they can field. So selfishly, I don't want him to be removed from office between now and then.
Yeah, I know. I've heard some speculation this morning from even lefties suggesting that, well, maybe some Democrats will start to leak against Biden here because they might see it as an opportunity to get rid of him, to replace him as the nominee. It's kind of a weird environment we're in. That's how bad this guy is.
Right. But you know what? My personal preferences are immaterial. I have to follow the United States Constitution. And if I already believe in my heart of hearts, we've had discussions about this before on your program, that the preponderance of the evidence, it is more likely than not that Hunter Biden was the bag man and Joe Biden was bribed and he gained financial windfall for selling access and peddling influence and access. So if it's more likely than not that that's the case, then we have to. It's our constitutional duty to investigate further and then open an inquiry.
So I'm going to get into this coming up on the program, but the White House defense of this, and of course the media's dutiful defense that they take from the White House, is that there is no evidence that Joe Biden profited from his son's business deals. I'm going to quote from CNN today in a quote fact check that they put together. They say House Republicans have not presented any proof that Joe Biden ever profited off his son's business deals or was influenced while in office by his son's business dealings. Now, go ahead and address that, if you will.
Vince, using his son's own words in emails, saying that dad takes too much of my money and 10% for the big guy. Now, the Democrats will argue, well, you can't prove that the big guy is Joe Biden. Really? Well, because Hunter's business associates called him the big guy, and a guy named Mykola Zlochevsky, who was the CEO of Burisma, the energy giant in Ukraine, didn't know those guys, and he called him the big guy as well in the leaked and now public FD 1023. Not to mention the FD 1023 lays out the fact that Joe Biden, in fact, was given $5 million by Zlochevsky to make the prosecutor, Victor Shokin, quote unquote, go away.
Yes.
Well, that's exactly what happened. So the Democrats now have to say that the 1023 is a bunch of garbage or it's just a claim, although the FBI has to admit that the source of this same document is highly reliable. We've paid him hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we worked with him for over 10 years, and all the information he's ever given us has actually checked out. Furthermore, what happened, what physically happened, is we're not making up the fact that Jeffrey Pyatt, the ambassador to Ukraine, called Mykola Zlochevsky, corrupt. That was Obama's ambassador. We're not making up the fact that there was a board meeting of Burisma who President Biden's son, Hunter, sat on, and Burisma was paying him $1 million a year. That's a fact. And that he had a conversation with, and Hunter said to him, Dad, Burisma, they need our help. And then his father went and did exactly that, got Victor Shokin fired.
Also, I should say that what you're seeing here is a far cry from Joe Biden is unaware of his son's business dealings. That's what the original claim was. That's what Biden said on stage. Now you've noticed that they're driving the goalposts all around the stadium. And right now they're pretty ridiculous because at its most basic, if we were to give Joe Biden even the benefit of the doubt here in any capacity, at its most basic, if Hunter Biden profited from Joe's actions, doesn't that count as blatant corruption?
I would think that it was. And certainly now what the Democrats would say is, or the apologists for the regime, if you will, that, well, just because Hunter is corrupt and Hunter did things wrong doesn't mean his dad did. Well, okay, well, his dad was coddling him every step of the way. And every time all this information always corroborates what we already know. It never conflicts with it.
But Joe Biden's not Mr. Magoo, although he acts like it occasionally in public. He's at this. He goes to these dinners at Cafe Milano. He accompanies his son and his business partners. He writes in handwritten notes to his son's business partners how grateful he is that they're working with Hunter. He's on phone calls on a routine basis. According to all of this testimony that you in Congress have received, that Joe Biden would join phone calls with the business partners. Hunter Biden would be on Air Force Two on multiple occasions and then would also have meetings with business partners captured on photograph. It's like, it's unbelievable that they can stand there and say, oh, well, Biden, he loves his son. That's the explanation the White House is giving today.
He blatantly lied. In 2019, candidate Biden told the American public, I had no knowledge of my son's business dealings and I never met with any of the people. He knew that was just blatantly false.
Yes.
He had dinner with them. He gave them tours of the White House. He took pictures with them. He sent them notes and correspondence, as you just mentioned. Let's do a quick, for instance, for your listeners. Elena Baturina, okay, the former First Lady of Moscow, the former wife of the mayor of Moscow, Yuri Zolkov. Zolkov was by name, the American ambassador pointed out as one of the most corrupt people in Russia, okay? She just so happens to give $3.5 million to Rosemont, one of the shell companies of Hunter Biden. $3.5 million. A few months later, she has dinner with Joe Biden. And then when some of the Russian oligarchs are sanctioned after the invasion of Ukraine, her name is left off that list. It's just a coincidence, I get.
We get a lot of those, don't
we?
But
there's scores of them. That's the whole problem. If it's just one thing, okay, maybe it is a coincidence, but it's this constant. Mazimov and his buddies over in Kazakhstan wire $142,300 to Hunter, okay? Exactly that amount. The very next day, Hunter wires $142,300 to a dealership and buys himself a Porsche. Now, people aren't giving away money for free. Nobody can explain to us what that money was for, other than, but you know what? They also happened to have dinner with the vice president a few months after they gave Hunter money.
Right.
You see, this is, I think, in a court of law, you can start to build a case to prove that, yes, it was for services rendered or about to be.
I mean, there's a text message now famous, WhatsApp message, famous among people who have their eyes open. The media has tried not cover most of this. Quote, I am sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand, and now means tonight. And Z, if I get a call or text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. What does that message mean, if not to serve as evidence of Joe Biden's involvement?
If I were Joe Biden and I literally did nothing wrong and my son might have acted in a rogue fashion, I would say, I'm just telling you what I would do. I would say, whoa, I wasn't there. I can prove it. Here's my geolocations. I'll open it up and give Apple permission to share them. I wasn't in that room. Look, wherever the hell I was somewhere else. So it was my son, love him dearly, but he was spouting off. But they're not doing that, are they?
No.
And in fact, if I was accused of all this stuff, first thing I'd do is open up my bank records. I would, redact your account numbers and some other things, but go, look it. I never benefited at all. Well, you know what? We think that Hunter Biden gave his dad a debit card, and his dad just, had a spending spree on it. They haven't done anything. If they didn't do anything wrong, they should share the bank records, and we should have this thing over with forthwith. But they won't do that. In fact, they lawyer up and do the exact opposite and attack us. Deny, counter accuse.
I'd like to, and I know you know the details, which is I'm so grateful for, but I feel like there's a lot of Republican lawmakers who get asked the question, what is the evidence? Well, we have to do this investigation to get the evidence. It's like, no, stupid. That's not how you answer the question. The question is, there's a mountain of evidence. Of course we have to keep digging here because all of the evidence points to utter corruption on the part of the Biden family, starting with all of that public deception, Congressman Pat Fallon on with us today. From 51 intelligence officials lying about Hunter Biden's laptop, Joe Biden retailing that lie, standing on stage and using it against Donald Trump, lying about taking money from China. He straight up lied to the American people. My son never took money from China. Lying about not discussing business with his son. He was frequently photographed, and I went through all of that. Using pseudonyms during his time as vice president of the United States, Robert L. Peters, Robin Ware. People don't do this unless they're trying to hide something from the public.
And we really have to take a look and, dial it back. What was Joe Biden's thought process? What was he thinking about in 2014-15? He thought his political career was over. He was grabbing with both hands. It was Hunter in overdrive, and that's why they got sloppy. If he had never run for office again, probably nobody would have uncovered this stuff because he would have been a has-been and he would have gotten away with it.
Right.
But because Hillary Clinton, who was going to be the nominee? In 2014-15, you asked any Democrat who was going to be the nominee. They were going to say Hillary Clinton was going to be the nominee.
That's right.
She was going to whoop any Republican, and she was going to be president for 8 years. And Joe Biden's certainly not going to run for office at the age of whatever he'll be in 24, 81, 82 years old.
Smart.
So it was over.
Yes, it was.
That's why they got sloppy.
They didn't realize that Donald Trump would be in office and would notice this corruption in Ukraine and then raise it in public and say, hey, wait a second, what's going on here? And that began a series of panicked events that are still shaking our republic to its core to this very day. It's amazing what's happening. Well, please keep up the good work here, Congressman Pat Fallon, and really appreciate our conversations every time we have them. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Vince. Anytime. God bless. Take care.
It is 4:49 now. WMAL traffic and weather. I've got to get into the White House coming up here as promised because they have orders for the media, and as you could probably tell by the CNN piece I just quoted, they're already saluting. They're like, aye, aye, we're on it. Total chaos at the White House press briefing today. They had one. That was mighty brave of them. I mean, of course, there's a lot of people in the room. You could predict what their questions would be, or maybe they were coordinated ahead of time. They'll be fine. Let's go to them. But there are some people in that room, good people, and they're all people that we've had on this program, of course, because we love talking to great American patriots, who ask real questions. And the White House ran screaming from them I've got great audio coming up. Nick is calling in from Purcellville on line 3. Nick, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Of course, sir.
It's always a good show.
Thanks.
Vince, you know, all this stuff about the Biden crime family, it's kind of all in the past. You know, it's looking into what they have done.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking about what's going on right now. We're sending billions and billions to Ukraine, and Vladimir Zelensky is, I'm sure, got his fingers in some of it. And is any of this getting kicked back to the Biden family? And, you know, they're so slick about hiding this money. There could be accounts in, you know, Swiss bank accounts with different names on them, and it could be the Biden's money. They may have billions.
These are all great questions, given the rank corruption we've already seen in the past, as you note. What kind of corruption is occurring now? One of the questions is, how much blackmail does Ukraine have on Biden? So if I was a country in possession of all of the most important information that basically keeps the keys to whether or not you continue being president of the United States, doesn't that kind of affect your judgment? Doesn't that kind of affect the extent to which you look the other way when we're sending, as you pointed out, billions of dollars into that area of the world?
Absolutely. And there's no accounting. And we need some, you know, little guys with the big bottle glasses to go over there and look at this money and see exactly where all this money is going. You know, and that should be part of this investigation, I would think, you know, because like you said, he may be compromised by Zelensky. And whenever Trump was impeached for, asking Zelensky, I'm sorry.
No, I just want to make a point, and I appreciate all of this. Nick, last week in Ukraine, the defense minister was forced out because of corruption. Defense minister Alexei Reznikov was forced out of that role, and supposedly Zelensky's cracking down on corruption. But wait a second. Let me just pause for a moment. There's a war going on in Ukraine that we are funding in its entirety. The defense minister was just forced out due to corruption. What did he spend the money on? If it's a corruption concern, how was the money being spent? And what accounting is there going to be of this? And where's the media interest in this story at all? And, you know, what kind of role did the White House play in this? We have a major corruption scandal that just happened, and it's like a hiccup in the media. The defense minister ousted because of rank corruption with American money. So it goes right to your point, Nick. What is happening right now? And, just add it to the pile of all of the reasons why we can't trust this president. It's 4:58.